Namaste, Jai Swaminarayan. Earlier in this series, we came across a dilemma faced by a seeker of truth. Overwhelmed by worldly pressures and influence, how can one master spirituality? Let's talk about the role of a Satpurush in solving this problem. As is commonly known, the word Sat means truth, and Purush means being. The Satpurush is a term used to define a being who represents and propagates the most universal truths. A concept familiar to many Hindus is the four Purusharths, or the four pursuits of human life. If we were to simplify, we can think of them as the following. 1. Dharma, or the pursuit of virtue by fulfilling duty. 2. Arth, the pursuit of prosperity. 3. Kam, the pursuit of pleasure. And 4. Moksha, the pursuit of ultimate freedom. Generally speaking, a great deal of importance is placed on dharma as an immediate priority. Still, moksha is the aim thought of with the highest regard, as the ultimate goal of human life. How these four aims of human life reflect our priorities is an important focus for introspection. The point of understanding these four is to create symbiosis amongst them. Pursuing one of these should not hinder the other. With reference to our earlier stated dilemma, how can we pursue dharma, artha, and kam in a way that doesn't hinder moksha? In the 15th chapter of the Gita, Sri Krishna has said that only those who master vivek attain moksha or freedom. In the Srimad Bhagavad Puran, Kapil Muni tells his mother that for a jeev, a profound association or bond with the Satpurush opens the gateway to moksha. What qualifies the Satpurush as an authority on the means to mastering vivek and attaining moksha? After all, the Satpurush inhabits the same world as billions of other jeeves and faces similar circumstances. Well, Bhagavan Swaminarayan shows us how a Satpurush's priorities differ from a normal human life by listing four defining characteristics of the Satpurush. 1. Dharma, a mastery of principle-based virtue. 2. Gnan, first-hand knowledge of the Atma and Paramatma. 3. Vairagya, detachment from all transient objects. And 4. Bhakti, profound devotion to Paramatma coupled with a thorough understanding of Paramatma's characteristics. Proficiency in these four subjects is what allows the Satpurush to know the truth and remain focused on it amidst the chaos of ignorance that defines Maya. This gives the Satpurush a uniquely important place in society, and more importantly, in the life of a spiritual aspirant, one who is a seeker of truth. Denial that such beings can exist is a factor of how predominant ignorance is in our lives, but the greater our aspiration for the truth, the greater our chance to find and recognize this type of being. In the Sundarkand of Tulsidasa's epic Ramcharitmanas, Hanumanji takes Ramchandra Bhagwan's message for Sitaji to Lanka, where she had been imprisoned by Ravan. Upon reaching Lanka, one of the first people Hanumanji encountered was Vibhishan, Ravan's younger brother. Although Vibhishan was a respected member of Ravan's council, amidst men who concurrently echoed and fueled Ravan's delusion, Vibhishan was an aspiring student of Vivek. To that point, Vibhishan had never met Bhagwan Sri Ram. However, his sanskars had fueled in him the desire to meet Bhagwan in human form. He had learned about Ramchandra Bhagwan's story, perhaps through Ravan's network of spies. His knowledge of Shastras and previous association with spirituality or spiritually inclined people led him to determine that Ramchandraji had to be Bhagwan in human form. He chanted Sri Ram's name as a mantra when he woke from his sleep. His mansion had beautiful drawings of Sri Ram's weapons on the walls. He had even grown clusters of tulsi plants as a devotion to Ram, a rare sight in his community. His sanskars had steered him towards truth even amidst the vast ignorance he encountered in his everyday life. Hanumanji was blessed with incredible abilities, both physical and intellectual, but most notably, Hanumanji was a Satpurush. His association could bring one closer to Ramchandra Bhagwan. Hanumanji was pulled to Vibhishan by Vibhishan's piety. He made himself visible to Vibhishan in the disguise of a Brahmin. Vibhishan immediately recognized the elevated spiritual aura of Hanumanji, even though he was in disguise. He even asked him, "Are you a holy servant of Srihari like Narad? Perhaps Bhagwan Sri Ram himself has come to bless me with his presence." Hanumanji then revealed himself and what he had come for, and he also told Vibhishan about Ram's greatness. Now, although Hanumanji's presence and purpose posed a direct and imminent threat to the lavish and comfortable lifestyle Vibhishan had enjoyed to that point, Vibhishan was overjoyed with Hanumanji's presence. He recognized Hanumanji as a Satpurush, through whom he could reach Bhagwan Sri Ram. Thus, when Hanumanji asked for Vibhishan's help in locating Sitaji, Vibhishan felt blessed for the opportunity to serve. Hanumanji's meeting with Vibhishan contrasts vastly with his later encounter with Ravan. Ravan had hoped that by now Sitaji's love for Ramchandra would dissipate and that she would accept Ravan as her husband. However, Sitaji had not budged from Ravan's flirtations, temptations, or even rage-filled threats. In fact, in the last encounter, she had looked upon Ravan's drawn sword with welcoming eyes, something that Ravan craved so much for himself. So steadfast was Sitaji's commitment to Ramchandraji that she chose death over the most lavish lifestyle any woman of her time could ever imagine. Ravan's frustration was beginning to peak. Hanumanji witnessed this last interaction between Ravan and Sitaji. He was dismayed to see Sitaji's sadness as she prayed to the heavens to end her agony of being separated from Ram. He made himself visible to Sitaji, and Sitaji was thrilled to hear a message of love from Sri Ram. She gave Hanumanji her own message to return. And on his way back, Hanumanji got the attention of Ravan's sons and allowed himself to be captured. Bound as a prisoner, Hanumanji presented himself to Ravan. To that point, Ravan made many mistakes. He was full of pride. He wore greed and lust as if they were badges of honor. But none of his massive shortcomings could have prevented Ravan's redemption and ensuing glorious legacy if he had recognized Hanumanji as the Satpurush and taken his advice. Hanumanji's message for Ravan was essentially no different from what it was for Vibhishan. However, Ravan's past deeds and, more importantly, his current state of delusion made the encounter with Hanumanji combative. Ravan didn't like what the truth said about him and the choices that he had made to that point. He did not want to go or let go of the pleasure he got from greedy yes-men fueling his delusions of grandeur. He could not accept the truth in Hanumanji's wisdom. He wanted to punish and insult Hanumanji for praising Ramchandraji in his presence. Impassioned with this ignorance, Ravan saw Hanumanji not as a Satpurush but as a mere monkey. He set Hanumanji's tail on fire, thinking this was the best way to insult a monkey. Unwittingly, Ravan set fire to his own city. For one seeking the truth, the presence of a Satpurush is a blessed event. Referring to the Satpurush as the Sant, the great poet devotee Kabir has said, "Ke bhagya bade jahan sant padhare, ye santan hai par upakari, sharan aaya ko let ubari, avat sant ko आदर दीजे, चरण धोई चरणामृत लीजे, साहब का घर संतन माही, संत साहब कछु अंतर नाही, कहि कबीर भले संत बधारे, युग युगन के काज सुधारे." Great fortune follows wherever a Satpurush goes. The Satpurush lives for the welfare of others and uplifts those who seek the Satpurush's refuge. The Satpurush should be shown the highest form of reverence. After all, Bhagavan has made his home within the Satpurush. There is no space between Bhagavan and the Satpurush. Kabir says, "Blessed be the Satpurush's arrival, for the Satpurush's presence benefits the work of an entire age." In the physical realm, the Satpurush is not defined by gender or caste. The Satpurush's identity can be divulged by the Satpurush's actions and understanding. Vibhishan lived a pious life. He aspired for truth. Thus, he immediately recognized Hanumanji's identity as the Satpurush and greatly benefited from his encounter with Hanumanji. Ravana's complete dependence on transient objects made him incapable of realizing the same blessing. And so in our final video in this series, we will talk more about how Vibhishan furthered his cause from the blessings he received from the encounter with the Satpurush. Namaste. Jai Swaminarayan.